Billionaire tried to humiliate his ex-wife at his wedding. What happened next was life-changing. Jennifer stood at the edge of the grand mansion's driveway, heart thumping as if it might burst from her chest. The colossal structure loomed ahead, drenched in shimmering lights and laughter that echoed through the air. Once, this extravagant scene felt like a distant dream shared with her ex-husband, Jonathan, who traded their small-town life for an empire. Now, it felt like a cruel reminder of just how far she'd fallen. Was this the life she had envisioned, standing on the fringes of his new life, staring into a world where she felt painfully out of place? As she walked through the opulent entrance, her shoes clicked against the marble floor, each step resonating with an underlying tone of vulnerability. Draped in silk, the bride sparkled like a diamond against velvet, a stark contrast to Jennifer's simple dress that had seen many family gatherings. The guests mingled, a sea of designer suits and shining jewelry. Whispers flitted through the air like mischievous spirits. "Look, there's her, the ex-wife," they murmured, their glances piercing through her like daggers. But then, amid the glitz and glamour, the warmth of her children's laughter played in her mind like a soothing balm. Nights spent sewing costumes for school plays echoed with the same joy she felt today. They were her oasis. As flashes of their silly faces danced in her memory, she drew strength from the love that anchored her to the ground, reminding her of who she truly was. No mansion, no money could ever overshadow the power of that connection. Before she could collect her thoughts further, Jonathan approached, his confident demeanor radiating wealth and success. His gaze lingered on Jennifer, mingled with surprise, disdain, and a hint of nostalgia. "You managed to show up, huh?" he laughably remarked, drawing a few nearby guests' attention. She forced a smile, biting back the hurt, knowing that concocted humor couldn't disguise the wound of his words. Just then, an old family friend, Marla, approached with genuine warmth etched on her face. She leaned in, her voice low but firm. "Jennifer, never forget the years you poured your heart into raising those kids," she whispered, her eyes gleaming with sincerity. "That's real success, not this show." The authenticity of Marla's words sent ripples through the crowd, igniting whispers about Jennifer's sacrifices. Before they could diminish, she knew it was her moment. Jennifer stood taller, every ounce of insecurity fading into the background. "You all see this luxury," she began, her voice gaining strength. "But the true measure of a person isn't wealth. It's the love, the sleepless nights spent bringing up children, and the perseverance to keep moving forward." The room erupted in murmurs, the guests shifting in their seats, curiosity brewing, tension hanging thick. Before she could complete her thoughts, a voice from the back interrupted, shifting the evening's energy. Gasps filled the room. The unexpected interruption caught everyone off guard. What revelation could possibly alter this model of perfection they were witnessing? Who among them dared to shift the narrative? Jennifer's heart raced. Was this the moment everything shifted? Could she reclaim her dignity, redefine herself beyond the shadows that once held her captive? The air pulsed with anticipation, and it was clear this was only the beginning. The tension hung thick in the air as a tall, striking woman with bright red hair made her way through the crowd, her eyes locked onto Jennifer. The buzz of conversations faded away, replaced by the heavy sound of their heartbeats. All eyes slowly shifted toward the newcomer, curiosity morphing into whispers of confusion. "Who is she?" someone asked, a frown forming on their brow. Jonathan's face paled as he squinted at the woman, recognition hitting him like a freight train. Jennifer's pulse quickened. She could sense the energy shift as the woman approached, resolve in her strides. It was Alice, Jonathan's former assistant, someone he often mentioned in passing, a name that always clung to the air like an odor of burnt toast, too close for comfort. "Alice!" Jonathan exclaimed, a mixture of surprise and annoyance coursing through his tone. "What are you doing here?" "I came to tell the truth," she said, her voice clear, cutting through the chatter. "And Jennifer, I need you to hear me out." The focus shifted dramatically, Jennifer's attention fully captured. "What truth?" Jonathan's voice dripped with irritation, a stutter of hope bubbling beneath. "About the business. About the money, Alice insisted, her eyes piercing through the facade of festive cheer. That you thought you could just erase and bury. But it's time someone shines a light on it. Jennifer felt her heart thud violently. Every secret and every hidden crime committed in the name of wealth and success swirled in her thoughts. What could Alice possibly reveal? She swallowed hard, craving answers but also fearful of their implications. The room became a whirlwind of gasps and murmurs as anticipation built. Jonathan's polished confidence began to waver, the mask cracking in front of everyone. He stepped forward, lowering his voice, desperate. "Alice, don't do this here. You don't know what kind of havoc you're causing." "Oh, but I do," Alice shot back, drawing the crowd's attention tighter around her. "I know all about the dealings, the lies, the funds that aren't quite right. And I know what you did to Jennifer." Gasps rippled again. The stakes sky high, Jennifer felt the room closing in on her. What could Alice say? Her mind raced, anxiety collided with a shred of something that resembled hope. "You're not talking about me. That's all in the past. What can one night here really change?" "Everything," Alice replied, full of conviction. "You deserve to know the truth about your life, about the man who pretended to love you. And you deserve to reclaim your story, your power." Every guest moved closer, eagerness sparking in their eyes. Jennifer felt the tides shifting, the coolness of vulnerability melting into a raw energy that wrapped around her, igniting flames of confidence she thought had long since extinguished. Public opinion can change in a heartbeat, she realized as she locked eyes with Alice, now fully aware of the moment at hand. "Tell me." Jennifer's voice broke the noise, steady and brave, resonating with the courage she didn't know she had. Alice turned towards her, eyes filled with determination. "You need to know about the embezzlement, about the truth hidden behind Jonathan's facade." Jennifer's breath hitched. Everything felt balanced on the edge of a knife, teetering between the past and a new reality. Would the revelation set her free or destroy everything she thought she knew about the life she had once shared? The weight of decisions hung in the air, one firm question echoing louder than the rest: could she embrace this truth, or would it shatter her once again? And as the anticipation thickened, a profound silence ensued. Jennifer braced herself for the answers she never knew she needed. The moment stretched, like an elastic band ready to snap. Jennifer felt the heat in her cheeks and the chill in her spine, the eyes of everyone around her burning with curiosity and judgment. Jonathan shook his head slightly, frustration etching deeper lines on his face. "Alice, don't you dare poison this moment," he hissed, desperation creeping into his voice, but Alice wouldn't be swayed. She stepped closer to Jennifer, her voice lowering as if sharing a secret, though the crowd's attention was rapt. "You need to know the truth, Jennifer. The man you loved was involved in something dark and twisted." A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd, fueling a frenzy of speculation. Jennifer's heart raced. She couldn't believe this was happening. Reality was slipping from her grip, and a part of her wanted to bolt, yet another part yearned for the answers Alice promised. "What do you mean?" Jennifer asked, breathless, trying to keep the tremor from her voice. "It's not just business," Alice replied. "There's embezzlement, money disappearing, deals that put people in danger. It goes beyond greed, it's a web of deceit, and you were caught in it without even knowing." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. Jonathan knew what was happening. He let you believe you were safe while his hands were dirty. Jonathan's face darkened. "Stop. Just stop. This is a lie, a twisted fabrication designed to ruin me." He motioned toward the doors, as if seeking an escape route, but the crowd's interest anchored him in place. But Jennifer felt something shift inside her. Maybe it was anger for being kept in the dark, or perhaps it was a long-buried strength awakening. "Why are you telling me this now, Alice? After everything?" "Because you deserve to know who you really married. You deserve to reclaim your life, not just play a part in someone else's lies," Alice replied, her voice steady, the bitterness in Jennifer's throat turned into a spark of defiance. You chose to be silent while I lived in a fairy tale built on lies. Why should I trust you? Because I know I made mistakes, Alice said, her eyes shimmering with sincerity. But you also deserve a second chance at your own story, Jennifer. A chance to be stronger than what you've lived through. Jennifer's heart raced. The notion of reclaiming her narrative, despite its potential chaos, felt intoxicating. The energy in the room shifted again. No longer was it just a silent crowd curious about the drama unfolding. They were now witnesses to Jennifer's breaking dawn. We all want truth, don't we? A woman in the back called out, her voice surprisingly fierce, prompting a chorus of murmurs in agreement. As the collective energy swelled, Jennifer turned to Jonathan, her breath steadying. You owe me the truth. I need to hear it, right here, right now. Jonathan's eyes flashed with something. Was it fear? Anger? She couldn't tell. But she felt a power surging through her, an empowerment birthed from years of silent submission. They will talk about this, he warned, a hint of emotion cracking his facade. Let them, Jennifer declared, the words surging from a place deep within. I'm tired of hiding. Tired of living in your shadow. Alice smiled, a silent recognition of Jennifer's transformation. The crowd's murmurs became more pronounced, a wave of encouragement washing over her. The air crackled with anticipation, the balance of the night shifting firmly in her favor. With every heartbeat, every steady breath, Jennifer saw herself aligning with the emerging truth of her existence. Tell me, she repeated to Jonathan, her stance unwavering. She could feel the tide turning. Yet, just as Jonathan opened his mouth to speak, a loud crash echoed from the back of the hall. All heads whipped around as the glass doors splintered open, revealing a new chaos waiting to unfold. Who was this unexpected guest, and what would they add to the night's revelations? The doors swung wide, and the figure that stumbled through sent a jolt through the crowd. The air shifted, brimming with a mixture of tension and curiosity. A tall man, breathless and wild-eyed, surged forward. His clothes were disheveled as if he had just come from a tussle. Stop. Everyone, just, stop. He shouted, a hint of desperation coloring his voice. Jennifer's heart pounded against her ribs. Who was this intruder? Was it someone from Jonathan's past? Or a friend of Alice's? In that moment, Jonathan looked more shaken than she had ever seen him, the strength he usually wielded suddenly stripped away. James? Alice whispered, recognition flashing across her face. James? Jennifer repeated, a sense of dread creeping into her thoughts. All eyes turned to the newcomer, and he angled himself toward Jonathan. I know everything, James breathed, his chest heaving. I've seen the documents. They're real, Jonathan. You can't keep the truth buried any longer. The crowd murmured, the energy shifting once more. Jonathan's usual confidence floundered, and Jennifer locked her gaze on him, watching for his reaction. Anger flickered in his eyes, mingling with fear. What documents? You don't know what you're talking about. Jonathan snapped, but his tone lacked conviction. James took a tentative step forward, the crowd parting instinctively. You think I would come here without proof? You think I wouldn't risk everything to expose your lies? The embezzlement, the shady deals, they go all the way to the top, Jonathan. You're not the only player in this game, and I won't let you take Jennifer down with you. Her own heart raced with confusion and dread. Jennifer felt a storm brewing inside her. Answers were pouring in, but so were new questions. She turned to Alice, who looked equally stunned. Why is he here? Who is he to you? Jennifer demanded, her voice cutting through the noise. A friend, Alice murmured, her expression darkening. He's been trying to gather evidence, but I didn't think he'd actually come tonight. I thought this was over. Over? Jennifer echoed, her chest tightening. No, it's just beginning. This is my life, Alice. You can't keep me in the dark anymore. James hesitated, searching the faces of the gathered crowd as if weighing his options. Jennifer, you have the right to know everything. Jonathan can't protect you forever. You deserve the whole truth. Can we do this here? Jonathan shot back, a mix of anger and desperation rising in him. In front of everyone? Yes. Jennifer found herself shouting, the resolve in her voice carrying an unexpected weight. I'm not afraid anymore. This is my life. A ripple of cheers erupted, the crowd transformed from passive observers into champions of her truth. James seemed to take heart at her declaration. Then let me show you, he said, pulling out a sheaf of papers from his pocket. These are the records I found. Jonathan's hands are not as clean as he's led you to believe. She reached for the documents, but Jonathan grabbed her wrist. Don't listen to him, Jennifer. He's lying. His grip was tight, a stark contrast to the newfound freedom she felt. What if I'm done listening to you? She challenged, feeling the eyes of the crowd like a warm embrace. The tension hung thick in the air as she faced Jonathan, the man who had defined her world. James, tell me everything, she urged, ready to dig into the depths of her marriage and her own resilience, but as he began to speak, another crash echoed through the hall, pulling everyone's attention away once more. A second figure stepped through the battered doors, and as they did, the whispers and gasps only escalated. What disruption was about to unfold now? Who had just entered the chaos? The crowd parted as the new figure entered, a woman with fiery red hair cascading down her shoulders. She was striking, her presence demanding immediate attention. Jennifer squinted through the dim light, trying to grasp who this newcomer might be. There was something both familiar and unsettling about her. Rachel Jonathan's voice was barely a whisper, yet it sliced through the buzzing whispers like a sharp blade. Rachel? Jennifer breathed, the name igniting a fresh wave of questions. Suddenly, pieces of the puzzle began to click in her mind, but they didn't align as she expected. Jonathan's face turned pale, and his grip on Jennifer's wrist slackened as he turned to face Rachel with a mix of surprise and dread. What are you doing here? The woman stepped forward, her expression hardened, eyes flaring with determination as she locked onto Jonathan. I'm here for the truth. We need to talk, now. What truth? Jennifer interjected, her pulse racing again. She couldn't shake the feeling that Rachel held a key to understanding Jonathan's secrets, his past, the crumbling facade of their life together. Rachel glanced at Jennifer, then back at Jonathan. You can't cover this up anymore. I want to let you drag her into your mess. Jonathan ran a hand through his hair, his facade of control crumbling piece by piece. The crowd was silent, caught in the currents of tension like leaves in a storm. What mess are you talking about? Jennifer pressed. Her heart was pounding in her chest. So many shadows loomed over her life, and with every revelation, she felt a sense of empowerment blossoming within her. James took a step back, letting Rachel take the spotlight. This is bigger than you think, Jennifer. The documents I found, they were just fragments. Rachel knows the entire story. He gestured toward her. Jonathan has been playing with people's lives for years, Rachel declared, her voice steady. And I'm not going to let him sweep it under the rug just because he's wearing a shiny suit and pretending to be a saint. Jennifer's breath hitched. What do you mean? What has he done? Too much to cover in 5 minutes, Rachel replied, her eyes now softening as she looked at Jennifer. But I promise you, you need to hear it. You deserve to know who you're really up against. The crowd murmured, their various expressions reflecting their shock, concern, and anger. It felt like a gathering storm, each individual charged with emotion, drawing strength from one another. Jonathan took a step forward, attempting to regain control. This is ridiculous. You don't know what you're talking about. Really? Then why are you sweating, Jonathan? Rachel shot back, her voice ringing with power. You know that the truth is out there and will surface eventually. You can't hide it forever. Feeling the weight of the moment, Jennifer could see her life hanging in the balance, poised on the edge of a precipice. The air felt thick with secrets waiting to escape. "Stop pretending like I didn't see what you did to me," Rachel continued, her voice now raised. "It's time for you to face the consequences." And just like that, the room shifted again. The heat of confrontation cracked the air, and the vulnerability of betrayal hung in every corner. "Rachel, please." Jonathan's plea fell flat as silence reigned. He was a shell of the man who had so easily weaponized his charm. A sharp inhale broke through the tension. "Tell us everything, Rachel," Jennifer urged, her voice ringing with a newfound resolve. She could feel the power of community around her. Everyone was leaning in, ready to uncover the truth. As Rachel opened her mouth to share the secrets that would shatter their worlds, the sudden sound of something crashing to the ground interrupted her. A gasp spread through the crowd, and all heads turned toward the entrance, where a half-dozen masked figures rushed in. What now? Jennifer thought, her heart racing anew. The chaos was far from over. What came next would change everything. The mask-clad figures surged forward, their movements precise and practiced. The dim light reflected off their gear, momentarily blinding the crowd. Gasps erupted as people instinctively stepped back, the air thick with tension and confusion. "Get down!" one of them barked, drawing the attention and fear of everyone in the room. Panic rippled through the onlookers. A few people stumbled, backing into walls, while others instinctively took cover behind tables. Jennifer's heart raced as she looked at Jonathan. His expression was a mix of fury and terror, and for the first time, he seemed entirely out of control. She glanced at Rachel, whose expression remained steadfast, unflinching against the chaos. "Rachel!" Jennifer shouted above the din. "What is going on?" Rachel's eyes flicked to Jennifer, urgency coursing through her voice. "We have to get out of here. They're here for Jonathan." "What? Why?" Jennifer felt a knot tightening in her stomach. "Because it's all connected. His lies. They want him to pay for what he's done." Rachel shouted back, her voice slicing through the noise. Before Jennifer could respond, a figure lunged forward, brandishing a weapon. Chaos erupted. People screamed. A sharp instinct kicked in. Jennifer grabbed Rachel's hand and pulled her behind a nearby pillar, seeking refuge from the growing violence all around them. "Stay close," Jennifer urged, the adrenaline surging through her veins. Seizing the moment, Jonathan shouted at the masked intruders. "What do you want? You're making a mistake." The closest assailant laughed, a chilling sound that echoed in the chaos. "We're here for the truth, Jonathan. Nothing personal, but your time's up." In that moment, the entire atmosphere shifted. The crowd previously arrayed before Jonathan, spectators to his charming facade, turned into a living organism of panic and curiosity, each soul yearning for escape or revelation. The masked figures moved strategically through the venue, their eyes piercing with intent. It was clear they knew what they were doing. Jennifer's grip on Rachel tightened. "We need to find a way out," she whispered, her mind racing. "Yes, but where?" Rachel answered, her voice steady yet laced with urgency. Jennifer felt the swell of fear in her chest. Trapped in the middle of a confrontation she barely understood, the surrealism clawed at her mind. Jonathan had always seemed so untouchable, like he played on a different field. But now, the game was changing, and secrets were beginning to unravel. "Over there." Jennifer pointed toward an emergency exit at the back of the room, less visible as the crowd continued its frantic movements. As they darted toward it, Jennifer felt a weight lift. Leaving was the only way to uncover what was truly going on. They reached the door, but it was locked, a further barrier to their escape. "Push, Rachel." Jennifer couldn't believe how intense her voice came out. "We have to make it through." Rachel pressed her shoulder against the door, determined and fierce. One more time. With a heaving push, the door gave way with a loud crash, and they tumbled outside, gasping for fresh air. The night sky stretched endlessly above them, yet the unfiltered chaos of the events still pulsed in her ears. "We can't just leave Jonathan," Rachel said breathlessly, gripping Jennifer's arm. "Not like this." But all Jennifer could hear was the frantic beating of her heart. What if it's too late? It felt like the world had shifted on its axis right before their eyes. As the weight of this moment pressed heavily, Jennifer looked into Rachel's eyes, knowing deep down that the truth was out there waiting, but at what cost? Suddenly, the scream of sirens sliced through the night. They both turned, staring into the darkness, realizing that everything was about to get much worse. What would they uncover when the dust settled? Could they handle the truth that lay ahead? The sharp pull of sirens drew closer, and Jennifer's heart danced wildly in her chest. She turned back toward the building, silhouetted against the glow of flashing lights, feeling a sickening twist in her stomach. Jonathan was inside, wrapped up in a mess of his own making. "We can't leave him," Rachel said again, her voice almost pleading as she scanned the street. Jennifer glanced around. The darkened alley they had stumbled into felt like a world away from the chaos. The air was thick with uncertainty. "What can we do?" she shouted back, desperation clawing at her throat. "There's gotta be something," Rachel muttered, her mind racing. "He can't face them alone." The urgency in Rachel's voice pricked at Jennifer's conscience. Memories of Jonathan's laughter and warmth washed over her. She couldn't let him face this alone, even if there was so much she didn't understand. The facade he had built, so carefully crafted, was unraveling in real time. She shook her head, determination sparking. "Let us go back. Maybe we can find another way in." Before Rachel could object, Jennifer took off down the alley. The sound of her feet echoed in the stillness. Heart pounding, she couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. She reached the service entrance that led to the back of the venue and pushed the door open, peeking inside. The scene was chaotic. No one seemed aware of the two women slipping through the shadows, but the tension was palpable. Screams and orders tangled in the air, and Jennifer felt the weight of impending disaster growing heavier. "Over there." Rachel pointed to a small storage room off to the side, partially hidden by piles of event equipment. "We can wait for the right moment to grab him." Jennifer nodded and they slipped into the room, the door creaking shut behind them. It was dark and musty, an air of neglect clinging to the boxes stacked high against the walls. She held her breath, the tension thickening around them as they listened intently. "Mistakes, Jonathan? You made a career out of them." A voice called from the main area. It wasn't just anger, there was something personal, raw beneath the harsh words. Jennifer's breath hitched. Was it someone he knew? "They're all here for you." Another figure chimed in, the masked voices layered in contempt. "You thought you could walk away free?" Rachel turned to Jennifer, her eyes wide. "We can't let them take him. They don't know what he has been through." But Jennifer felt a shudder of doubt creep in. What if they did know? What if everything Rachel feared was true? What kind of truth would they all have to face when the dust settled? She could feel her fears blossom, threatening to suffocate her. Could she really step in, knowing Jonathan had hidden so much? But before she could respond, the door rattled, sending a jolt of fear through them both. "Shoo!" Rachel hissed, pressing against the wall, her eyes flaring wide. The door swung open, and a masked figure stepped inside, a scowl etched across their face. "You think you can hide?" they snarled. Jennifer's pulse quickened. "Run!" she whispered fiercely to Rachel, adrenaline surging as they pushed past the intruder, heart racing. They darted back into the chaotic crowd, faces blurring around them like a swirling storm. As they fought their way through the throngs of scared onlookers, they both caught a glimpse of Jonathan. He stood at the epicenter, locked in a verbal duel, his charm stripped bare under the weight of accusations. Jennifer's heart sank. Would he crumble or fight back? And what truth would emerge when this night finally unraveled? With resolve, she grabbed Rachel by the arm. "We have to help him before it's too late," she vowed, tension coiling tight in her chest. But as they stepped toward the confrontation, the masked figures moved, closing in on Jonathan like wolves circling their prey. Time was almost up, and all they had was courage against the storm. What truth waited to be revealed that could change everything? Would they be ready for it? The crowd pressed in around them, a swirling mass of confusion and fear. Jennifer's heart raced as she maneuvered through people, each face etched with concern, yet strangely distant from what was unfolding just ahead. She could see Jonathan now, a shadow in the chaos, struggling against the weight of that venomous accusation. Her fingers tightened around Rachel's arm. "Stay close," she murmured, not wanting to lose sight of him. The words slipped out, but the reality that they might not reach him in time echoed in her mind. Each time Jonathan's smile had brightened a room, she had thought of warmth. Now, that same presence felt like a candle flickering in a storm. "Let us circle around," Rachel suggested, her voice barely audible above the rising din of voices. They ducked low, moving behind tables, cluttered with half-empty glasses and hastily discarded plates. Jennifer's stomach churned. This might not just be about Jonathan's past, but about theirs too, flooded with regrets, decisions that shouldn't have been made. She could hear another accusation launched in his direction, sharper than the rest, cutting through the tension. "Just admit it. You've ruined everything you've touched." The biting words struck like arrows, piercing through the crowd. Jonathan's face paled, and for a moment, she could see the glimmer of vulnerability in his eyes, something the world rarely got to witness. It ignited a fire in her. "Enough!" Jennifer yelled, not caring if she drew attention to herself. This was wrong. This wasn't just a confrontation, it was a public execution. The room's murmur quieted, all eyes turning towards her as she pushed past tables and chairs, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. "Jennifer, wait!" Rachel hissed, trying to hold her back, but her resolve was unwavering. "Jonathan!" she called out, her voice filled with both fear and determination. Everyone turned to see who had disrupted the show. She felt the heat of so many gazes, but it didn't matter. What mattered was how she could help Jonathan stand tall against the onslaught of accusations that had haunted him. "Why don't you tell them the truth?" she continued, her chest tight, fingers trembling slightly. "All of it. Don't let them twist your story." There was a moment of stunned silence. The crowd seemed to collectively hold their breath, as if waiting for the final blow, waiting for Jonathan to break under the pressure. Jonathan's gaze met hers, pupils wide, disbelief evident on his face. He opened his mouth, but the words didn't come. Rachel stepped forward, every instinct telling her to protect Jonathan. "You don't have to," she started, but Jennifer interrupted her. "They need to hear it. We need to hear it." Part of her couldn't shake the fear of what would happen next, a fear that the truth might be unbearable. But she had to believe in him. He could face this. The masked figures shifted, their demeanor transformed from aggressors to witnesses, curiosity etched into their features. Then, something flickered behind Jonathan's eyes, a spark of defiance. "You're right. I have messed up." His voice trembled but grew stronger. "But I'm more than my mistakes. I'm more than what you see." The crowd leaned in, captivated by his words. The tension shifted, an electric current humming in the air. "What am I?" he breathed, eyes scanning the crowd, pleading for understanding. As he began to reveal his truth, the air thickened with a sense of impending change. Jennifer felt hope swell in her chest. Would Jonathan's courage ignite a fire in others too, or would secrets drown what was left of this moment? She could only watch, knowing this was just the beginning. What skeletons would tumble out next, and would they be ready for the fallout? Jonathan's voice hung in the air, a fragile thread woven through the tense silence. He hesitated, as if he were standing on the edge of a precipice, a world of hurt beneath him and a path toward healing ahead. The crowd awaited his next move, an audience drawn in by the raw weight of his vulnerability. "I've hurt people," he continued, his eyes locking onto Jennifer's with an intensity that shattered her fears momentarily. "I've buried mistakes so deep that even I struggled to breathe." He drew in a shaky breath, pushing through the weight that seemed to crush him. "But I'm not just the mistakes I've made. I've tried. I've fought to be better, to be someone worthy. I'm here, standing before you, because I want to fight for my own redemption." A murmur swelled in the crowd. Eyes widened, some softened, but others remained skeptical. Jennifer could see the flickers of doubt linger among those who felt entitled to pass judgment. Anger bubbled within her at the thought of their judgment suffocating the courage that Jonathan was summoning. "Stop!" she shouted, fear fueling her words as she turned to the crowd, her heart pounding. "You have no idea what it's like to drown in your own past. To carry the weight of regrets like shackles." Jonathan's gaze flickered toward her, a mix of surprise and gratitude etched in his expression. Their connection, once so naive and untainted, had warped over time, and now it seemed fragile but resolute, capable of withstanding a storm. "People deserve second chances," she continued, her voice rising, the edge of desperation creeping in. "To grow, to learn, and to stand up again. Accusations can tear down a person in seconds. You don't know him like I do." Some faces in the crowd began to shift, the tides of perception beginning to ebb. Jennifer could sense it, her words carving room for empathy to blossom. Jonathan's shoulders lifted, his mouth forming a slight smile, the kind that spoke of relief. "I want to tell you everything," he said, turning fully to the onlookers, the resoluteness in his voice growing. "About the times I fell and the lessons that changed me." She could see the crowd leaning in, curiosity peaking, and the attention shifting from hostility to anticipation. Each word he shared was a step toward reclaiming his narrative. The story spilled out, moments of weakness and triumph alike. A tale of love lost, promises broken, yet also of resolutions made through tears and struggles. The raw honesty washed over them, seeping deep into layers of old skepticism. As he spoke, an unexpected raw connection started to form around him. The burdens he carried drew them in, like moths to a flame. Jennifer's heart soared, but a tug of unease stayed. The truth had power, but it had the potential to reveal more than just Jonathan's story. She felt the stares of the crowd shift once again, now demandingly expectant. They gazed at her, pulling her back into the spotlight, as if questioning her part in all of this. "What about you, Jennifer?" someone yelled from the back. "Are you really standing by him after everything?" The question hit her like a swift kick to the gut. The crowd shifted uneasily, waiting for an answer from her, as if she were now part of Jonathan's redemption arc. In that moment, a flood of memories swirled within her: laughter, heartache, love, and betrayal. Guilt wrapped around her heart, threatening to drown her in doubt. "Are you ready for the truth?" she whispered, glancing up toward Jonathan, knowing that this wasn't just the moment of his justice, it was hers, too. Would the truth set them both free, or seal their fate in an even darker history? The air hung thick with anticipation as they stood side by side, weighed down by secrets still buried. What revelation would emerge next, and would their intertwined pasts forge a new future or crumble under its weight? The tension in the room was palpable. Jennifer stood there, heart racing, facing a group of strangers who suddenly wanted to know everything. She felt like a spotlight had turned on her, illuminating every crease of doubt and fear etched into her soul. Everyone was waiting. They wanted to know if she would forgive Jonathan, if she would stand by him as layers of truth unraveled in front of their eyes. Jonathan shifted beside her, visibly trembling. "Jennifer," he started, his voice barely a whisper. But she wasn't ready to step back. Not now. Not after everything they had been through. "I'll tell them. But you start." You owe it to them and to me. Those words ignited something in him. He squared his shoulders, breath deepening. I get that I'm not the hero here. I've made massive mistakes, his voice echoed in the silent room. But I'm trying to change. I need to be better. Not just for me, but for Jennifer and our kids. The crowd stirred, some faces softening with understanding. I've hurt people. I've lied, I've hidden behind this business facade and let it consume my life. And Jennifer, she deserves a better life than the one I provided for her. Jennifer felt the heat flush through her cheeks, emotion threading through her like an electric current. This was the Jonathan she had loved, the one whose heart used to beat in rhythm with hers. I'm tired of masking pain with success, he continued. I'm here because I realize I carry the burden of our mistakes, and I've finally accepted it. It's not easy to admit I'm scared, but I want to face those fears head-on. I don't want to lose what matters most, which is Jennifer and our family. The air hung heavy with his admission. Cheering seemed imminent, as if the crowd found his vulnerability intoxicating. Yet, the uncomfortable truth lay there waiting. Here they were, exposed on a stage of judgment, and secrets lingered like shadows around them. Jennifer's heart thumped loudly as she found her voice. I've been lost too, she said, feeling the power of her truth rushing in. For years, I played the part of the doting wife who stood in the background, convinced of our love, only to realize how wrapped up in someone else's lies I had become. A quiet murmur rolled through the crowd. People shifted, ruminating on her words. I loved him, she continued. But I was also scared. Scared of what the truth might reveal about who I was in the larger scheme of things. Times when I questioned my self-worth because it seemed tied to his success. The realization lifted Jennifer's spirits as she found her footing. She refused to be a victim anymore. But I won't hide from my truth. It's time to own my choices and reclaim my narrative. A ripple of applause began, tentative at first but quickly growing, echoing through the hall. She locked eyes with Rachel, who smiled subtly, understanding now what a powerful shift had begun. Then, Jennifer sighed, the fear falling away as she began to sense that perhaps their entangled fates could carry them toward healing instead of despair. Her gaze moved back to Jonathan, whose expression had shifted from fear to awe. What will it take, Jonathan? She asked, feeling the urge to dig deeper. To truly make amends? Jonathan took a step closer, eyes glimmering with intensity. To be honest, to communicate every day, to show you that I'm committed to changing our story together. Jennifer nodded, acknowledging the sincerity dripping from his voice. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was finally ready to walk it with clarity. Rachel stepped forward, her voice steady. This isn't just about you two anymore. It's about everyone you've affected and everyone who believed in you. A community drawn to your story. As Jennifer faced the crowd again, she wasn't just standing up for herself, she was standing for every mother, every woman, filled with doubt that they could rise above their circumstances. You all deserve honesty and authenticity. No one is sunshine bright every day. We all carry burdens. The true strength lies in carrying them together, in openness, in owning mistakes, as we work towards redemption. The applause grew louder, and there seemed to be unity, connection, and a release of the burdening secrets that they had all carried. And in confronting those masked figures, Rachel added, gesturing to the doorway from which they had come, we need to hold ourselves accountable. Just then, sirens blared closer, shaking them. Jennifer grasped Jonathan's hand, feeling an unbreakable bond forming amidst their chaos. The crowd remained captivated, ready to rise together in solidarity as they took their first steps forward, no longer isolated in their fears. No longer in shadows, but stepping into the light of their truths. A braver Jennifer now understood the staggering power within resilience, and as they emerged from their struggles to face the world anew, they were ready to weave a new narrative. The night unfolded, the trials ahead still unknown, but she knew they would not face them alone. Instead, they would build a life grounded in love, transparency, and the fierce hope of finding unity in truth. So, understanding the journey ahead might come with pain, but they would transform it, step by step, into something as beautiful as a phoenix rising. And just before the next wave of action could unfold, Jennifer felt a pulse of energy ripple through her, urging her to acknowledge the crowd yet again with sincere gratitude. In that moment of pause, she released a breath. Let us reclaim our voices together. Finally, embraced by the love of a shared community, she felt whole again. Now, it's your turn to take action, just like Jennifer did. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next life-changing stories. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and support the channel. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending, and don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, we can grow our community into something truly magnificent.